Welcome to episode 24 of YOUx2, where we're on an adventure of getting to know the two of us that are living this human experience. This little avatar, this human character that we're playing here, and the real us, the actor behind the character, this powerful, supernatural, eternal spirit being made of unconditional love. Hey everyone, it's your brother Zen, and I'm a wake-up artist. My passion is helping us remember who we really are and of that connection that we have with the Creator and the spirit world. In the last episode, we talked about a subject of heartbreak and sharing some of the drama around it that I've experienced in my life, helping us get back to those emotions that we had, our younger 7-year-old self who's trying to get our attention and keeps bringing these events and different things in our life to help us get back to that place. And when I spun the wheel of all the different experience of heartbreak that I've experienced in my life, we ended up with the emotion of brokenheartedness around victimhood and about being bullied. So I call it Act 1, we talked about some of the experiences that got us back to when I was like 13 or 14 years old in middle school. And we're going to continue on with that subject. So if you haven't watched the first episode of Act 1 before we go into Act 2, I recommend looking at that because it helps you understand what got us to this point. Last episode, I did create like an energetic, emotional containment field because I know a lot of you that watch my videos are very empathic. And so I created this barrier around my emotions so that you don't have to get flooded with all of that. And I'm also setting this intention around the video that only those emotions that the Creator wants to come up for you, for your life, that you are ready to look at, that those are the only ones that will, rise in your emotional field. So if you close your eyes with me, and we're just creating that emotional bubble around my emotions, and then we'll start and go forward. Thank you. As I mentioned in the last episode, sharing this information and these experiences, the drama, is not intended to create any guilt or shame in anyone for what they did or did not do in my life. The intention behind all of this is to bring some relief to that little childlike self within me and within all of you as well. So let's kind of jump in, and we're going to look at, the last episode we were talking about when I lived in Texas. I was around 13 or 14 years old, but now we're going to step back a little further into when I was like 12 or 13 in a beautiful city called Denver, Colorado. I had just moved from elementary school into junior high. And as fate would have it, my math teacher thought I was doing really good at math, and she decided to put me ahead a grade in math when I went into junior high. This was before they used to have enriched math, where you have an entire grade of all the same, individuals. They're just learning at a higher level of math. So the day before junior high officially started, they would have all of the freshmen come in a day early to find out their lockers and get familiar with the school and everything before it was full of, all the other grades as well. And so you visited each of your classes and met your teachers and did all of that. And I walked into my math class and I was like, I thought I was in the wrong place because there was no one else in there except for the teacher that was sitting there. And I was like, about to step back out of the room, and he was like, wait, are you Denny? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, am I in the right place? And he said, yeah, come on in. He was very friendly, very kind, very welcoming. And he, of course, told me that I was going to be the only 6th grader in the 7th grade class. And my heart sank. I was like, oh no, because I was very shy back then. I didn't want, any extra attention. I didn't want to stand out. Any of that because of, some previous experiences that we'll eventually get to. And so I was like, oh no. So the next day, of course, when school started, he made a point to, tell them that I'm a sixth grader in the class, and that, I was, basically doing very well at math. And so I got a lot of dirty looks from, the seventh graders, and actually had this very tall jock that sat behind me. And when the teacher was out of the classroom, he had decided that this upcoming test that was coming up, that it was my responsibility to help him cheat on the test so that he could pass it. And I was like, I didn't want to get in trouble. So I told him that I couldn't do that. That was wrong. And he slugged me really hard in my back. And everyone in the classroom looked, because it was so loud, because the teacher was out of the classroom. So that was his opportunity to, impose his rule over my brain, evidently. And, he would pick on me in the hallways and do different things like that. And I think the teacher really caught on, because shortly thereafter, he moved everyone around in class, where I wasn't sitting next to him anymore. And there was, talk about echoes going forward. Eventually, when I moved to Texas, over the next year, actually something like that happened to me there as well. But this was in social studies class. And now that I think about it, maybe I was smarter than I thought I was. But he had decided as well that I was going to help him cheat on the social studies test that was coming up. It was like our midterm, or it was a really huge, important test that defined a third of our grade, something really important. And he had threatened to beat me up if I wasn't going to help him cheat. And I was stressed out because, I had this big thing of not cheating. That was wrong. And I didn't want to, do that and get in trouble myself. And the day of the test, he again really reiterated to me, you better, move to the side, and let me look over your shoulder at your answers, and do all that. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? We went into class. My heart was beating out of my chest. And again, teachers are pretty smart. All you teachers out there, you understand these things that happen. And he was like, all right, everyone, don't put away your stuff yet. I have a new seating arrangement for the test. And he moved everyone around to where it was mixed, and no one was sitting next to anyone that they had sat near before. But he still decided to slug me in my arm really hard when we got out of class, because obviously he couldn't, beat up on the teacher. So I was the scapegoat for his fear and his frustration. And as I mentioned in the last video about my experience in Texas, I was thrown up against lockers and walls, and the same thing happened, earlier at this school too. And it's amazing as you look and you go back over all these memories, and as you allow yourself just to step back, through when did you feel that way last? When did you feel that way last? You actually get back into your earlier years, and you see the echoes of the same emotions going there. But it's even amazing. It really struck me as I was preparing for this video, how some of the exact same situations also kept making themselves known over and over and over again. Last episode, I also mentioned, that I had a love letter that was put into my locker that was a joke to, make fun of me and just to give me a hard time. Well, at this school, a year or so before, I actually had a girl walk up to me very early when I had started junior high, and she informed me that she thought I was cute and that she wanted me to be her boyfriend. And it really wasn't a question. She was taller than me, and her arms were double my size. And so she told me that this is the way it was going to be. And she even gave me a picture of her saying, I'm going to be your girlfriend. You're going to be my boyfriend. And I was like, I'd never had one before at this point, and I didn't even understand what was really going on. But so she told me, at lunch, this is where we're going to meet. So meet me over there. And I did. And she hung around with, they had like a outdoor smoking type area where those that, they smoked. And they're kind of the troublemaker and rebels there. But it was a nice benefit because when I was around her for the very short-lived experience that it was, I was protected. No one picked on me. No one bullied me. And I ultimately felt I had to share it with my mom what was going on, and that this girl wanted me to be her boyfriend, and I showed her a picture and stuff, and she was like, "You're too young to have a girlfriend, so you need to end that." And so I went back to school, and I told her, sorry, my mom says I'm not old enough to have a girlfriend or anything like that. And she, of course, chose to slug me really hard on my arm, and she was really strong. I felt like my arm was going to fall off. So she had some heartbreak. I almost had an arm break at the same time. So with my protection gone, one day I was walking across this big blacktop area from lunch to go to the area we waited until classes started. And as I was walking by, it was actually like behind the cafeteria, and there was a bunch of these, athletes and the jocks that were throwing people in the cafeteria dumpsters. Now, those dumpsters were where they dumped all the food that wasn't, being eaten, and all the trash from the lunchroom. So it stank, and it was full of all this random food everywhere. And so they were throwing people in there, and this one of the particular jocks was just like drawn to me. He came running across the area and grabbed me and told me that he's like, "Get on your knees and say you're a fag, and if you don't, I'm going to throw you in the dumpster." Well, I did not want to get thrown in that dumpster and get full of all that stuff. And I was like, it made sense to me. Got on my knees, said, "I'm a fag," and he got so mad because he really wanted to throw me in that dumpster. But so he just got angry, said something really derogatory to me, and then walked away. And I got up, I think it had rained, and so my knees were all soaked from the dirt and stuff on there. But I was like grateful that I didn't end up in that dumpster, even if I had to, embarrass myself by doing what he said. Okay, let's take a few moments just to take some deep breaths and calm our emotions down as memories come up, right? And I'm just going to pick up my little self and just hold on to it and allow it to feel the feels, just in a place of unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, unconditional attention. No barriers to it feeling what it wants to feel. I've done a lot of mental work, a lot of, looking into forgiveness and letting go of resentments and different things like that around all those things that happened. And what I love about the book, The Presence Process by Michael Brown, he talks about like the first 7 years of our life is where we develop our emotional side of our humanness. And then from 7 to 14 is when we develop the mentalness. That our little one or inception really to 7-year-old that is dealing and developing emotionally, it's not equipped to understand how it deals with different things. And so it deals with different emotions it has, but some of it gets stuffed down and it still has these charged emotions. And when we hit that mental development, in order for us to fit into the adult world, our mental side of us pushes that emotional self of ours down into the basement. It still has all these emotions that are bouncing around down there. And that's why you can, sometimes hear we have trouble remembering a lot of what happened to us 7 years and younger, because our mental side of us pushed that down to move into the mental world. So doing this process and going back into those, getting through those mental barriers helps us get to that emotional place where we can really get into that and have some resolution around that. So where we've gotten to now, we're going to go back into my pre-7-year-old self and understand where it was bullied back then. And that takes us to an elementary school called Helen Keller Elementary in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So I remember I was around 6 years old because I was in first grade, so 6 years old or so, and I had little metal, lunchbox with the little thermos that you'd, do the cap on and put the other cap on top of it. And evidently at lunch, I had not put the cap all the way on correctly, and since my lunchbox was empty, I think the thermos had fallen. And I didn't realize as I was walking that some of the Kool-Aid I had left in my thermos was leaking out on the floor. And this little girl in my class, she had slipped on it and fell and was crying. And the teacher, grabbed harshly, that's from the view of a 6-year-old, right? Harshly grabbed my arm and pointed down and said what I was doing. And she sent me, little 6-year-old, to go find the janitor to come to pick it up because she had to take all the kids out on recess. So she sent me off into the school, and I had no idea where the janitor was. So I was wandering the halls crying because my little feelings had been hurt. And another teacher spotted me and asked me why I was crying, and I told her what was going on in between my gasping and crying. And so she took me into the gym where the janitor's office was off of the gym. And so I told him what was going on, and so he went to go clean it up. But it was very traumatic for my little 6-year-old self or so because, we looked to adults for our protection, but it was an adult who I felt had terrified me and bullied me. Another memory I have, and I was around that same age because I was still in first grade. It's still clear in my mind. I can still picture it in my mind. We were up at the board looking at a map, and it was one of those pull down maps, that you down. We were doing all that, and the teacher told me to pull on it to make it go back up, and I yanked on it, and it was stuck, and it wouldn't go back up, but instead it wasn't really very well attached to the top, so it fell down, hit the little gutter, where you normally had the chalk and stuff, made this loud crashing noise. And we were in an area where, we had like 4 different classes, and we were all pointed away from one another in this large open area. So when it fell, everyone from the classes looked over, and I was so embarrassed, and it scared me. Literally, I think it almost scared the crap out of me, because when I went back to sit down, my stomach was gurgling, and I was like, oh my gosh. I raised my hand to the teacher, deciding to go use the restroom, and he said, well, we don't have that much time left. Can you, just hold it? And so I had to tell him, and from everyone, I think I have diarrhea. And of course, when you say diarrhea around 6 or 7-year-olds, everyone bursted out laughing, right? So embarrassing. And the teacher goes, oh, well, go ahead and go. So I went over to the restroom, and while I was sitting in the, little stall, emptying out my little bowels because it was so upset and making so much noise doing it, how it is when you have that. And 2 of my classmates came into the restroom, and they opened up the stall door and were pointing at me, making fun of me. And that impacted me because I actually had this issue of not wanting to go to the restroom in public toilets for decades after that, because that was such an emotionally charged thing that was going on. It was there. And I guess it is funny now. I can think it's funny now, but we moved away, and for a couple of years we moved to like Nevada and then California, and moved back to Colorado Springs for 6 months before we moved to Denver. And while we were back, the class that we were in, we went on like a 2 or 3 day trip like school trip where it was all chaperoned and we went away. But because of my issue and my fear of being embarrassed by going in public toilets, I held it all day long. And by the time we got to this school that we stayed overnight in, when I went to the restroom, of course, I was very gassy at that point from holding it all day long. So it was very noisy when I was going to the bathroom. And on either side of me in the two stalls, there was these two individuals, and they were making fun of me again. And I thought, wow, what are the chances that those two were the same ones from back then? I could never verify it because I couldn't remember who it was from back in first grade. But wouldn't that have been coincidental? So that's as far as memories as I got back to there. But, you never know. Maybe the first time we felt bullied was having some experiences in the womb, and we picked up on different emotions there. Also, I thought, well, maybe when I was born and I got spanked on my bottom. Doctors spank us to, get us to cry. Maybe that is when we first all feel bullied, maybe a little bit. But so with everything that I've talked about here again, and anything that has come up within you as I've talked about these things, I'm just going to pick up the little child self of ours and just hold on to them tight. Just allow them to have this feeling of wholeness, this feeling of being protected, of unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, unconditional attention. And allow yourself to be that parent that you needed in those moments. And just feel the love. Just feel the love flow. Don't have to explain to the little child on why it happened, that it's okay. None of that. We don't want to go into the mind at all. We're just going to sit there and give the presence to our little one and just let it feel the love. Unconditional love. Allowing it to express its emotion without judgment of any kind. It's beautiful. Letting those emotional charges just go. It's almost like that movie Inside Out, where they had all the emotions inside the little girl, that cartoon, and the little fiery, angry one that just would explode with fire. And it's like allowing the child self to feel whatever it was going to feel. Let it burst out crying, let it burst out in anger, let it burst out what it needed to feel to let that charge emotion go, that it felt scared to do, that felt guilty to do, felt confused around what it was supposed to do with those emotions. Now it can just express it and let it flow. I love it. I love it. I love it. After this awareness came to me that all those upsets that were coming into my life were actually setups from my little 7-year-old self, bringing these messengers into this message, pointing me back, trying to get my attention so that we could stop those old charged emotions from continuing to influence my life and continue to echo out from me. I started looking at the entire world out there differently than I did before. Because when I knew it was myself trying to get my attention, I would stop and I pause now and I give my little 7-year-old self that unconditional attention that it so needed back in the day, but that no child ever gets. Even my parents, my parents' parents, parents' parents, all of those, no one ever got the unconditional attention that they were needing at the time. It's part of the human experience, really. But so I hope that going through this also helped bring some awareness for you. And if you want to continue to dig in a little more, I'm going to link the Presence Process book by Michael Brown down in the description box, because it is one of those life-changing books. In the next episode, we're going to continue on to Act 3 of those feelings of being heartbroken. And we're going to be looking at the emotions around feeling not chosen, abandoned, or left behind. In the meantime, if you are looking for more messages of love from above, in addition to these videos, I also put out weekly energy updates for each of the zodiac signs, also a monthly reading for each zodiac sign, and a few other types of videos. So if you don't want to miss out on any of those and be notified immediately when they become available, if you give this video a little thumbs up and click the like button, also click the subscribe button, and that gives you access to the notification bell. And when you go in there, if you select the all option, then you'll be notified of any new videos that come out on this channel. Because when you like a video, share a video, comment on a video, and subscribe to the channel especially, doing those things makes the YouTube algorithm so giddy. It does want to share the videos of this channel with other people as well. So if you feel inspired to do any of that, I am, of course, very grateful. Also, any of the videos that I put out online, those are general readings. And if you're looking for even more specific information for your specific life, I do offer personal readings, and all that information is listed in the description box below. All right, all you beautiful souls, as you go throughout this week, please know that every second of every day of your life that you are unconditionally loved by the Creator of all things. And of course, I love you too. Have an amazing week. We'll be talking soon. In the meantime, you hang in there and you take care.